hit like, and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. This is your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School, where we break down the most interesting subjects, the most controversial topics, the most contested subjects going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. We're here with a bunch of stories we want to cover. It's the middle of the week, and for once, Donald Trump ain't the only thing we're talking about. For once, the crazy of DC, it hasn't subsided, but it's just not the center of our conversation. Because even when they're doing crazy stuff, and they have continued to do crazy stuff, we still want to press forward with other conversations. And so sometimes we like to hit the cultural stuff. Sometimes we like to hit the music stuff. Sometimes the art stuff, the literary stuff, all that stuff under culture. Other times we want to talk about domestic politics. Sometimes we want to talk about activism. We cover a range of topics here at Night School. And tonight, again, is no difference. I am particularly stressed, particularly frustrated, particularly vexed. Is that a good word? Vexed at what's happening at Columbia University. At Columbia University, I am frustrated with what's happening at Columbia University. I'm also incredibly frustrated by the American Academy's response to it. So we're going to cover all of that. We're going to talk about all of that. In the meantime, everybody, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button. Also, let me know where you're coming in from. Hit the comment button and drop in your name, drop in your city, drop in your state, drop in your country. We are a global classroom, so make sure you let us know all of those things so that we can keep this thing going. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the American Academy. I just don't know if we've quite seen a moment like this in recent years. Obviously, we've been seeing university repression as long as we've been seeing universities. But there's something profoundly and particularly disturbing about this moment. You know, post-Trump election, we're seeing just an unabashed, unambiguous war on not just truth-telling, not just honest civil discourse, but on free speech. And the McCarthy era of political witch hunting and academic witch hunting has returned. It's never been all the way gone, but it has returned with full force. And what I can promise you, and Hessna is right, Biden rolled the carpet out for this. What we know for sure is that this thing ain't going nowhere. The next 4 years here are going to be quite the challenge. Anyway, I want to pick up a story because I'm going to lose my mind if I don't start talking about some stuff. Let's talk about Yale, first of all. Artificial intelligence, AI, just got its first scholar canceled. Yale Law School suspended Dr. Helyeh Doutaghi after an AI-powered website falsely accused her of ties to a quote-unquote terror group. There was no trial. There was no evidence. Just a bot that decided that she was guilty. I want to remind you, this is a law school. This is an institution inside of an institution that is supposed to prioritize the law, prioritize the virtues of due process, democratic participation, all of that stuff. It went out the window, as it always does. Now, this isn't isolated, according to Dr. Doutaghi. She says that this is part of a bigger crackdown, a war where AI is being weaponized to silence critics of Israel and to erase free speech. And Yale, to its credit, they said, we don't care about evidence either. We don't care about due process. Fact checking, why would we do that? Instead of that, they just took the bait and they made her prove her innocence. They said, you are guilty. You are suspended. Prove to us you're not a terrorist. So now she's fighting back legally. But there's a bigger question here, because I think she'll win the legal fight. And in fact, sometimes I think they want the legal fight to happen whether they win or lose. I'm talking about the universities now. I think about Stephen Salaita at University of Illinois. They knew deep down they were going to lose that legal battle. But it was more important for them to signal to their base, their donors, their political class, that they were willing to dispose of a Palestinian professor than to actually follow the rules. And if it cost them $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, or whatever Stephen got, I have no idea what he got. That's fine. They'd rather pay the money than keep him. Because not only does it send a message, but it scares, or it could scare or intimidate the next person. It could dissuade the next person from stepping up. So they understand that they're not going to win the legal fight, but the university doesn't care just about the individual legal fight. They don't care about the battle. They want to win the war. And to win this war, they are willing to ban professors. This time, they used AI to get a professor banned overnight. And this is the Ivy. This is the richest of the rich. This is the most elite institution in the United States. It's Harvard, Yale, maybe Princeton, right? They are all up in that triumvirate, and they are undoubtedly resourced to the hilt. They could do investigations. They have tech departments. They have cybersecurity agencies, but they didn't want to do that because, again, they weren't invested in being right. They were invested in sending the message that this is what happens when you challenge authority. This is what happens when you question the state. This is what happens when you challenge Zionism. This is what happens when you challenge the Israel lobby. This is what happens when you challenge the Trump administration. This is what happens when you challenge right-wing hegemony. This is the point. They want dissenting voices gone. Trump told you he wanted dissenting voices gone. Then y'all voted for him. Then y'all made him president. And now he's doing it. And if Ivy Leagues are this easy to manipulate, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of us? Anyway, that's the question. That's the challenge. That's the struggle. Whew. I'm so frustrated. Oh, my Lord. Let's move on to another topic, y'all. This one ain't going to make you feel no better. Let me tell you that, too. I know that one probably made your head want to explode. Let's move on to another one to keep this party, although it ain't so much fun tonight, keep this thing going. A Palestinian student organizer gets snatched up by ICE. And now we find out that the Columbia dean behind the crackdown is ex-military intelligence, not for the United States, but for Israel. Let me connect some dots for you. Mahmoud Khalil, a green card holder, was arrested for protesting Israel's war on Gaza. He was a student leader on campus. They came to him, they snatched him up, they disappeared him, basically. They sent him to a detention facility. They told him that his student visa had expired. Wasn't true. They told people he wasn't lawfully in the country. Not true. But they snatched him up. They took him away. And the White House is trying to deport this guy. And the logic, the argument is that he has terrorist ties and he's undermining the American, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how does this happen? Well, it just so happens, just saying, just so happens, that his dean, Dr. Karen Yahi Milo, used to spy on Arabs for the Israeli military. Now, she was one of the people, let me be clear, I'm not saying that just because she's Israeli is a problem. I'm saying that her particular job was to spy on Arabs. So when I see a educational infrastructure where Arabs and their allies, particularly Palestinians, are being surveilled and criminalized and punished, I can't help but connect the dots between that and the fact that the dean, one of the people overseeing this process, used to do that. But anyway, she helped push it's not just that though, she helped push the narrative that Columbia was overrun with anti-Semitism. Not in the past, but just a couple days before, Khalil Mahmoud Khalil, excuse me, got dragged away by ICE. Now, again, it could be a coincidence. She could support free speech. She could support all the students. She could support all this stuff. It's all just a big misunderstanding, except again, she was complaining about anti-Semitism on campus. And let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with complaining about anti-Semitism on campus. There is anti-Semitism on every campus in the world. Every place has some anti-Semitism. But what they were calling anti-Semitism was critiques of Israel. What they were calling anti-Semitism was critiques of Zionism. What they were calling anti-Semitism was a call for a free Palestine. And a couple days later, one of her students gets dragged away. And just in case you think I'm being extra, after the arrest, after Mahmoud Khalil was arrested, does she defend the student? Does she call for free speech? Does she call for a fair investigation? No. She invites a former Israeli prime minister to come speak on the campus, doubling down. Meanwhile, students that were protesting the event, where she invited the prime minister, they got called harassers, dissidents. So I don't know what's going on here, but I got to say, the fact that this relationship between the arrest and the infrastructure is at least so eyebrow raising. You would think the university would say something to disabuse me of this notion. But they didn't, and they won't, because they can't. Because whether or not the dean is connected or not directly, and although it seems like at the very least the dean is allowing for this environment to persist, regardless, the university certainly doesn't want to send a different narrative. The university wants to appear like a place where defending Palestine is wrong and punishable. They want to create a sense where anti-Zionism is unwelcome. They want to create that context. They want to create those vibes. That's how they're moving right now. And we have to do something about it. Because if ICE can disappear a student for protesting, what happens next? What happens next? That's the question. What happens next? Anyway, y'all, I got a sad story for y'all. An absolute heartbreaker. Sometimes things happen in the world and there's nothing you can do about it. And that in and of itself is the heartbreaking part. There are moments where, you realize how unfair, how cruel, how absurd human existence can be. This is one of those moments. Anyway, I want to tell you a story, and y'all can let me know what you think about it. I have all kinds of thoughts. Anyway, 2 kids were found dead in a Detroit parking garage, and now their mother could be facing criminal charges. The question is this justice, or is it just another attack on the poor? Tatiana Williams and her 5 beautiful, wonderful children were living tragically in a van that was parked outside of Greektown Casino last month. And the gas ran out of the car. And when the gas ran out of the car, she couldn't afford to fill it, obviously. The heat got shut off. And 2 of her babies, the 2 you see there on the screen, 2 years old and 9 years old, they never woke up. Now, at first, the police believed that these children, God forbid, these children froze to death. But medical examiners are now saying that it was carbon monoxide poisoning. And now the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office is deciding whether or not they should punish this woman, whether they should charge her. It's heartbreaking that these babies died. But we also got to be honest about some other things. This wasn't a mother trying to harm her children. This wasn't an act of aggression. This wasn't an act of moral indifference. This was the consequence of poverty. local media reports say that she traveled to casinos because of the free parking. And she asked for help months before this happened. She reached out to multiple people, including the child's father. I want to play a clip for you so that you can see what I'm talking about. Listen to this.
Out asking to.
No, she did not. Lord, she said, can I get them? Can I get them just to get them? And can I get them because you're homeless? That's two different things. So, no, she did not.
So what you, I'm gonna make sure I understand what you're saying is, she would sometimes ask you to.
Yes, she would just
take care of.
She just asked, can I get them for a couple of days? But I told her I'm working and all that, and I'm out here. We're not close to each other, so I couldn't. But she knows all my family is right around the corner from her.
Did she reach out to any of your family?
No, she did not. And she knows she could have, like we always used to do. We always stayed at my sister's house, or my mama would do something. And they right around the corner from each other.
I don't want to get into the blame game, although his response did not make me feel any better. Somebody says, come get your kids. I think you go get your kids. But if someone is saying, I need help, according to her, again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. She says something different. She says that he did ask. She says that she did ask for help and was specific. She's, but who knows? She said, can you get your kids from me? I need help. I'm homeless. I done kept the room this long. I couldn't keep it no more. That's what she said. She said, again, she tried to keep hotels. She tried to pay people to stay there. She said it just wasn't working out for her. I don't know who is right and wrong between them two. And I don't want to turn this into a he said, she said thing. I was a little stunned by his response, a little disappointed. He seemed a little indifferent. Not indifferent. He could be in shock. I don't want to make a moral judgment about his response. I'll just say I didn't love any of it. But at the end of the day, this isn't about bad parenting at the core. Even if we as parents or as just everyday people would say that we do something different. This is about poverty. This is a story about what happens when you're poor and you're left without a safety net. Again, we can all talk about different choices. I would have done this. I would have done that. We should have did this. We should have did that. I don't know who would be right in that back and forth. I'm not invested in the back and forth. What I'm invested in is the fact that we live in a world where people have to live in a van, where children have nowhere to go. Mege 62 hit the nail on the MFing head. Capitalism killed these children. You're living in a parking lot because you have no place else to be. Anybody who looks at this objectively and looks at the conditions, understand that these children are dead because their parents didn't have enough money for them not to be. It's that simple. They're not dead because they weren't loved enough. They're not dead because their parents didn't care enough. They're not dead because someone misbehaved. None of that. Those children tragically, heartbreaking. It's hard for me to even talk about this without crying. These babies are not alive simply because their parents did not have enough money. This is not something that we can fix individually. This is not something that we can fix case by case. This is a structural issue. This is a structural problem. This is something that can only be repaired. This is something that can only be repaired if we have the social, collective, social will to invest. There should be a shelter for her to go to. There should be a place for them to eat. No one should have to live at this level of indignity. Nobody. Nobody. And yet, here we are. But I know some of you are going to just blame the mother. Mother blame is as old as Western society. We blame mothers for everything. The serial killer, what was his mama like? The stage mom, the welfare mom, the blah, 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 blah. We love to blame the mother. But now we're not just blaming the mother. We are criminalizing the mother. The fact that they're even thinking about going to this woman who just lost 2 of her 5 precious babies and putting her in handcuffs. I just don't know how we could justify that. But again, this is what we do. This is what we've always done. We take people with mental illness and we put them on the street. And when they commit crimes of poverty because they're homeless and struggling with mental illness, we lock them up. When they self-medicate through street drugs like crack, we lock them up. We even make more laws to make homelessness illegal. We criminalize poverty. We criminalize poverty. We criminalize poverty. We criminalize homelessness. We criminalize mental illness. There's no way to live in a capitalist society and not have these outcomes. As the great sociologist Louis Vuitton said, we punish the poor. Please do not lock this woman up. Please do not put this mother in jail. If you take this mother and put her in jail, say for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, whose life is improved? Not hers. Not the 3 remaining children. Not that father who's now parenting alone. And if you think he's didn't want to parent, that don't help. If you think he did want to parent alone don't help. No one is better for this. No behavior. What behavior will be corrected by this? She's going to say, oh, I better stop being poor now. There's no solution to this that makes sense. We should not charge her. We should not arrest her. We should support her through her grief. We should support her economically. We should support her family structure. We should do whatever we can do. Whatever we can do to help this woman be whole again. And anything other than that is foolishness. While we're on the subject, former En Vogue singer Dawn Robinson has been living in her car for 3 years. I'm going to say that again. Former En Vogue singer Dawn Robinson has been living in her car for 3 years. I'm going to tell you why in just a second, but I want her to be able to speak for herself. So here is Dawn Robinson talking about it.
3 years. I have been living in my car. I said it. Oh my God, it's out. I've been living in my car. Oh my gosh. if you remember, if you guys were with me, in 2020, I did like 105,000 interviews. And in the interim, I was living with my parents in Vegas. And that was wonderful until it wasn't. I love my mom, but she became very angry. And a lot of her anger she was taking out on me, and I was her target all the time. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, I respect her too much. Let me get out of here. And I was sleeping in my car for maybe about a month in Vegas. And then the guy that was co-managing me at the time was living in LA. And he said, you need to come back to LA. Okay. And he said that I could stay with him. And so I was like, okay. He's like, I don't have a lot of room, but I'll make room for you. And then when I got to his place, he actually didn't have room for me. So it turned into, okay, well, I'm going to put you in a hotel for the night. And that one night turned into 8 months. Oh my God, you guys, because every apartment that I looked at, every single time I looked at a place, I would call him and I'm like, okay, can you meet me here? I would tell him ahead of time, of course. And then he wouldn't meet me there. And so I would take video and send it to him. And he's like, no, oh my God, this neighborhood, I hate it. And I felt like he was playing games, and I knew he was playing games, and I wasn't the one. I'm like, come on, I'm trying to make this easier on you because financially, I know it's got to be hard. You're paying your rent and you're paying my hotel. His apartment was $1,700 a month. And then my hotel was over $3,000. Yep. So, and I was always stressed every week because he would pay weekly for the hotel. So every week I was like, oh my God, can you afford it? Are you okay? And he's like, no, I can't, but I'm getting it together. What? You're the one who said to go to the hotel and you're not approving any of the apartments. Like, it would be so much cheaper to just get me into an apartment. Like, what's the problem?
So I don't know how to make sense of this. You know, at first when I heard the story and saw the headline, I was like, oh, wow, she's homeless. She's unhoused. But hearing Dawn tell it, she makes it sound like this is a life choice. Now, obviously, that life choice is produced by economic crisis. Dawn Robinson is struggling. She's struggling economically. She doesn't have a place to stay. She doesn't have a place to rest. She doesn't have a bed. The money is too expensive. And she was going through so much. She didn't live with her parents anymore for whatever reason. That wasn't helping. It wasn't a healthy situation for her. She couldn't, her manager was trying to support her. That didn't seem to be working out. You got to wonder if there's some mental health stuff going on here. I'm not saying there is, but I can understand how poverty and homelessness and all the stress of being in the public eye could create some serious stressors and some serious challenges. So at the very least, again, we have to ask that question. That video also seemed, there were some red flags in that video that made me wonder as well. But she says, it's like an adventure. And maybe she'll make a documentary out of it. She said, this is not like, quote, oh my God, poor Dawn, she's living in a car and it's terrible. Oh, woe is me. She said, it's not that. It's not. Like I said, I'm learning about who I am. I'm learning about myself as a woman. If you would have said to me while I was in Vogue, you're going to be living in a car one day, I'd be like, huh? I'm always going to have an apartment. I can't live in my car. How can I do that? That's what she says. So there's this interesting fluctuation between, this is what I want to do, I'm fine, and I never thought I'd be in this place. At the end of the day, if Dawn Robinson had more money and a better situation, she wouldn't be living in her car. I'm sure about that. Dawn Robinson is incredibly gifted and talented. And in Vogue, she was gifted. She was amazing. In Lucy Pearl, she was incredible. As a solo artist, she demonstrated the ability to do her thing, even though she never got the chance to really launch a full-fledged solo career after those two things happened, after she left in Vogue and after she left Lucy Pearl. There's a lot of industry buzz about whether she's easy or difficult to work with. There's a lot of industry buzz about, whether she's the cause of her own problems. I don't know Dawn, never met her. I don't assume the best of her or the worst of her. What I assume is that somebody who has produced this much joy in the world for us, all them in Vogue songs, that beautiful Lucy Pearl album, You, Dance Tonight, La La La, we're going down the list. Hold On from In Vogue. What are we talking about? Don't Go. What are we talking about? Like, Dawn deserves to have a soft life, a safe life, just like everybody else. She doesn't deserve more because she's famous. She just doesn't deserve less. We all deserve it. And the fact that the music industry can chew you up and spit you out to the point that you could be at the top of the Billboard charts, that you could have legendary albums and still be living in a car. I don't care how you behave. I don't care what your mental state is. I don't care what financial decisions you make, good or bad. Again, I'm not talking about her right now. I'm talking about anybody. There's lots of reasons people end up living in cars. And whatever they are, as much money was taken from her and exploited from her, there should be a safety net and a mechanism so that she's not living in a car. So I hope that all you people watching this don't just use this as a spectacle, because we love a spectacle. We love to watch people at their worst. We love to put it on video. We love to spread it around the internet. Instead of doing that, let's raise some money for her. Instead of that, let's provide housing for her. And all you industry folk that made your millions and billions off of artists, think about what it would mean to fund something valuable for Dawn Robinson, but also for everybody else. So I hate this story, but I would love that we have the opportunity to talk about this. I'm praying for Dawn. If there's a GoFundMe, I'll donate. If I knew how to get to her, I'd send her some money. And anybody who know me know I'll do that. But in the meantime, y'all, we got to think bigger and differently about this. You know, Troy and Kruma, shout out to my brother, said the amount of women living in cars with children is beyond belief. They're often not counted the way people staying in shelters are counted. That was with regard to the earlier story, but it applies here too. We just don't pay attention to how many people are doing this, to how many people are struggling. We got to invest in each other. We got to invest in people, yo. Anyway, let's move on to another story. Although, well, the bunny just said something important. She said, yep, men use housing as a weapon. Whew. Don't even get me started on that. My wife has started to do some research on that very topic. So we'll talk about that another time. Big Greasy Ebony writes in before we go and said, I put some pants on earlier that cut off my circulation. First time I ever felt like, look, I wear tight jeans. They don't be that tight, but they be tight enough. I'm fine with it. Y'all little jokes and comments ain't going to do nothing to me. I don't care. Yellow Bite wrote in and said, is it me, but the right wing only thinks protest only applies to white people. Aside from Mahmoud, they also make loophole for black people when they protest. That's right. White people don't even have to be protesting for what, you know what I mean? White people could just be tearing the streets up after a college football game and they find a way to make that okay. But somehow Negroes protest, brown people protest, women protest, whatever it is, we start protesting, they find a way to criminalize the dissent. It's not a coincidence. You got it right. Tropical Ding Dong, which is a wild name that keeps coming back up. In every U.S. city, there are hundreds of kids and families living out of their cars. It's been bad ever since 2008 and has only gotten worse. Same thing Troy said. It's absolutely true. We have to invest. The only public housing we invest in is prison. We got to invest in safe, affordable housing. Read the work of Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, who talks about this extensively. Wow. Y'all, Kari's crib said, not Mark jumping in his jeans to pull him up. I hate everything you stand for. You too, Tehu, Mark Wesley, whatever. I hate y'all. I hate y'all. Megan said, it's not that we protest. It's what we protest. That's right. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Wow. The disrespect I have to endure. It be your own folk, man. It be your own folk. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for watching Night School tonight. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Please hit the like button if you like what we're doing here. Please hit the subscribe button. Please share the content. And if you can, hit the join button and become a monthly subscriber to the channel. It's so important that you do that. It gives us the financial stability we need to do the work that we do every single night here on the channel. Also, if you don't want to make a monthly commitment by joining, hit that Cash App, hit that PayPal, hit that Venmo, hit that Zelle. We're almost halfway through the month and we need your financial support. Please consider doing it. We ask that you drop whatever you want. And it could be $1 or it could be $1 million or anything in the middle. We're grateful for all of it. Although I'm a little more grateful for $1 million. But anyway, but our ideal number tonight, the thing we'd love for you to do tonight is to drop $10 in. If everybody watching tonight were to drop $10 in one of these platforms, we would meet our financial goals for the month. And that would be incredibly important, y'all. So please consider. But again, if you can't give $10, give 9, give 8, give 1. Nothing is too small. We appreciate you. We love you. We thank you. I'll see you tomorrow night.